okay, is to bring some work that you two do related to Veterans Day to the board this week.
Yeah, appreciate it. Love to see it.
I think it's long enough. Okay. So instead of moving up forward, you're just gonna pass it. Want me to hold it for you first? All right. No, watch it. I got it.
This is
Second grade.
Yeah.
Go right on the red line. Ciao.
Good evening. My name is Nora. And I am in this school second grade class. My friends Barry, Jessica, Cameron, Landon, Marcel, and I would like to share the history of Veterans Day with you. We will also talk about why this day is important to us.
Veterans Day was called Armistice Day until 1954. Veterans Day was started by President Woodrow Wilson in 1819.
Veterans Day was started as a day to create lasting peace by honoring the sacrifices made by the United States military in World War I. Veterans Day was and is a celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. Veterans Day is always observed on November 11th. Veterans Day is a day to especially honor all living military veterans. Veterans Day is celebrated with speeches and parades. Veterans Day is a national holiday. Veterans Day is celebrated on November 11th because World War I was declared over 11 o'clock in the morning on November 11th, 1918. Our field of poppies. The poppy is a red wildflower that grows in fields all over Europe. In World War II, many Americans died and were buried in those fields of red poppies. Artificial poppies such as this are sold by veterans on November 11th to remember the veterans who have died. Our class created a field of poppies in honor of Veterans Day.
The poppies is right there in the front. A little decor for you.
Veterans Day means we celebrate the people who work hard and make sacrifices to keep our country safe.
To me, Veterans Day means a day to celebrate the people that made it through the war.
To me, Veterans Day means the veterans who saved and protected our country are brave and strong. To me, Veterans Day makes me feel happy when I think about my grandpa Art and Sequoin who fought for our country. Veterans Day means remembers and honors the people who fought in wars. To me, Veterans Day means a day to celebrate the soldiers who protected our country. A heartfelt thank you to all the veterans who might be in audience, especially my Uncle Brian Gibb. All veterans, please stand up to be recognized.
Uncle Brian.
You guys, you got one.
Good job, you guys.
impressive reading. I did not, I thought you were in fifth grade with the way you read. That was amazing. Really nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. My son was in the Army for 8 years, so I'm so glad that you know what Veterans Day is and that you always remember how important it is. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And I was, I think, the parents will be happy to see me as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good. Thank you so much. Great job. All in favor? Opposed or abstained? And if, Jackie, if you didn't get that, then we'll send it to you. Fantastic. All right. So we are entering into executive session at 7:15. So we'll be back. Oh, I'm sorry, in the motion, I didn't put that in there. Should we read to the motion? Yes, I'm sorry, that's my fault. Right. Dr. Miller and Mr. You want to rescinded, and then all those in favor, rescind, aye. Okay, so now here's again, everyone makes a mistake. We did.
Okay, you second. All right, so, new motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing possible appointment of an assistant principal at Oxford High School and inviting in Dr. Robert Miller and Mr. Rob.
No, that's picking
Oh,
up.
Anthony.
With the mask. No.
Let me say just asked. Motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the possible of an assistant principal at Oxford High School and inviting in Dr. Robert Miller and Anthony Hibbert.
Second, Deb, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? We'll be back soon. Thank you. Oh, we have to wait.
You just use the facility.
That's fine. And then we'll move on to approval of minutes. Right now. I'm sorry. Shelley's doing the motion. So we tell her Jack, is Jackie back on? Is Jackie back
She's waving, yes.
on? Okay, great.
Can you hear us now? Yes. Give me a
Okay.
Can you do?
A motion to appoint second as the Oxford Public Schools Assistant Principal at Oxford High School.
Second, Debbie, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstained? Motion carries, and we will welcome Mrs. Cusack as the new Oxford High School Assistant Principal. Okay. On agenda, we have approval of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from the October 12th Board of Education meeting.
Any changes to those minutes? All those in favor? Oppose or abstain? Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the minutes of October 26th, 2021 Board of Education minutes.
Any changes in those minutes? Thank you, Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Motion carries. And now we have audience citizens. So if you'd like to address the board, you can come up and please just give us your name and address. You can either write it down or Deb can write it down for you. And we'd like to hear if you have anything. Is that on?
No.
Linda Chaplinski, 30 Freeman Road. One housekeeping item, I know you guys have updated your website. The agenda for tonight, nothing persisted through. See, you have another link, so I just want to let you know that where I was looking, I couldn't find what I was looking for.
Okay, thank you.
I'm interested in curriculum, and I know that there is an initiative to revisit the curriculum. So I went out into the website and I started to look and see what was out there. And it's a wealth of information. I can say that what's out there is very helpful. And I came away with concerns on some of the mapping that I was seeing. So I have some points to go through, and I'd really like to hear what the board, your thoughts, feedback, if I'm misinterpreting what I'm seeing, but there are definitely some things that set up some red flags for me. So I started at the high school level because there is not mapping for all of the grades. So I just basically went and tooled around to see what I could find. And in the high school curriculum, all right, under sociology for grades 11 and 12, all right, we go in and it says the unit overview, all right, the unit serves as an introduction to the semester course students learn what sociology is and how it differs from other sciences. Great. Okay, so I'm looking through the unit overview and the different sections, and that's week 1 to 3. And then it goes into, and I'm just picking out some bullet points. I know there's a lot more here, so I'm not trying to extract anything and make it sound biased. I just want to hit some high points because there's so much here. Culture is a main component of social structure. Students learn how difficult it is to see our own culture from the inside. What seems normal to us may not seem normal to one outside our culture. Okay. And then we look at the content under essential questions. What is the relationship between race, ethnicity, and crime? Now that, it's the what portion of it, if we're trying to develop critical thinkers, it's the what portion of it that I feel is disturbing, right? Because if you want people to give feedback, then the way to approach the question is to talk about whether there is a relationship. What I feel here is happening is it's a decision that's been made and somebody's making a statement of fact rather than having a discussion within the classroom. So the question is put to the student that this is a fact. Now tell me what the relationship is. Then going on into another section, the unit concentrates on social inequity and sociological causes of inequality. Minorities and elderly are disproportionately represented in lower classes. Sociological causes for these inequalities are discussed, including origins of prejudice, discrimination, institutional discrimination. And again, we come to the essential questions. How are race and ethnicity related to poverty? How are gender and age related to poverty? Is there a scientific basis for race? I don't even know what that means. Why are ethnic minorities seen as inferior? What are the barriers to African American assimilation? So again, and I'm on the outside looking in, I've understood, but these are not the phrasing of the question to me is a predetermined fact. And now you're looking at students to support those facts rather than to introduce them to critical thinking to either embrace or dispute them. Moving on, this unit covers the various social institutions. Students will learn to distinguish between power, authority, and coercion. Now we move to the essential questions. Are marriages happier with or without children? I don't know how a high school student even can think about that. How do schools transmit culture? Okay. Do schools provide education equality? And again, I'm interested to know how a high school would even begin to have a discussion on that. How is socialism thought to benefit society? Okay, moving on, the unit will cover an understanding of demographics and the tool demographers used to forecast population growth and composition. And I didn't write any other notes there. And I promise I'm not going to suck up the whole night, just a few more points. Then I move into, again, high school social studies, ethnic and gender studies. The introductory unit to this course will begin with the understanding of why this course is necessary. We will look at the root of racism, nativism, and patriarchy, and the specific ways it has had an effect on our modern society. And right under the essential questions, what is white privilege? Moving on, why does society continue to systematically discriminate against groups in our society? Why is the single story dangerous to our society? How does society make up for past mistakes? Why has progress been so slow in the United States? Again, where's the critical thinking? The unit will focus on themes of social justice, social responsibility, and social change. How can we be active citizens and participants in enacting social justice for all? Personal comments here, and I'll just say, I've been around long enough to see that actually white middle-class males are probably one of the most highly discriminated groups in our society right now. And it also takes me back to a time in our nation's history when our ethnicity didn't really matter. We held onto our ethnic heritage and we celebrated with and for each other. But when we walked out the front door, we were all Americans. It didn't matter if I was Polish, if I was Jewish, if I was Catholic, we all united as Americans. And I feel that when we approach topics like this, and we're not careful how we do it, that they become more divisive than they do unifying. So again, this is the last point that I'll hit on. But I wanted to see how we get there from here, right? Because this is high school. Again, there's a lot of content that's missing for the grades in between, but I went back to kindergarten and found what I found to be very interesting. And it's the kindergartners writers workshop. And this, from what I could discern by the length of unit, this is the whole year. So we're looking at kindergartners and we're trying to groom them to be good writers and persuasive writers. Great. When I was in kindergarten, my kids went through, it wasn't quite that sophisticated, but times change. And we're asking the students to do an abundance of, okay, the unit pushes the students to do an abundance of persuasive writing, including letters, songs, petitions, this is kindergarten, and signs addressing problems they see in their classroom and then extending into world problems. This is kindergarten.
Hold on 1 minute, Linda.
Sure.
Oh, no, I know. Here we go. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, thank you. All right, push students to think about how to make things better within the classroom and school. Then 2 of this unit expands children's thinking to include neighborhood problems and really dives into the idea of who can help me fix that problem. Students work to write lots of persuasive letters. The third end of the unit revolves around the children all joining in a whole class endeavor to tackle a global problem using a variety of writing genres to persuade others, to convince their readers to help cause change and improvement. What essential questions? What problems do I see and encounter in the world? How can I convince others to make a problem better? So if I start in kindergarten and I fast forward to high school, the question that comes to my mind is, are we really trying to develop critical thinkers, or are we grooming activists? What's the role of the school? And I'm really interested to hear what the board has to say about this, and if they share any concerns or anything.
Well, actually, we will thank you for doing all that research. And Dr. Miller, we have our curriculum director with us here, and I'm sure that they'll have a discussion on your points, and they will get back to you, or we will get back to you. But, you know, for right now, we need to obviously, you know, process what your concerns are, and we'll respond.
So this is news, right? So, and I'm not saying that in an adversarial way. What I'm bringing here, it feels like that there is a thought that the board may not be fully immersed into what's actually out there.
Can I say something? Sure. I love the same thing, you know, we definitely get back to that. I could say.
I'm sorry, I can't hear
Okay. I know that, you know, when Stephanie says that the discussion will back to, that is the case. I just want to tell you that as chair of the curriculum subcommittee, that there are many of these areas that we're working on, and we're very, very familiar with the curriculum that's up on the website, and these are things that we're working on.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board?
Hi, my name is Kelly Steves, 11 Butternut Ridge Road, Oxford.
Great, thank you, Mike.
I just wanted to come up. I was a little outraged this week at the content my daughter received in school. I didn't hear from anyone from the board. I did reach out to the teacher, and I'm sure you all had heard about it through the grapevine. But she was given an assignment that was not appropriate for a 10-year-old to read. So my question to the teacher was, where did this come from and how did this happen? And, you know, how do we prevent it from happening again? And, you know, do you still think it's appropriate? And the assignment was taken down. But from my understanding, the curriculum for social studies 5th grade isn't finished due to COVID. You know, I understand everything's due to COVID nowadays when we fail, but I don't want to be failed again. So I don't know, who is the curriculum writer? Where is the curriculum coming from exactly? Okay, so okay, great. So 5th grade social science is something to take a look at.
Sure, great. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that I'm also concerned about things that are happening. I understand that we need to protect our community and our children, but things seem to be going a little too far, okay? We're testing in the schools now instead of in medical facilities. I'm not okay with that. You know, it was more, you know, opt in or opt out. I mean, are these vaccines going to be mandated? And then if I choose not to vaccinate my child, is there going to be weekly testing like they're doing in colleges? I just want to know, are we being desensitized? Are we being conditioned? Is this what's going to happen? Because why are we doing this? How bad was the outbreak that we needed to send medical people to my child's elementary school to test them? And how can I ensure that my daughter doesn't get tested? I need to be able to trust my daughter's school. And based on the curriculum that she received last week that no one seemed to know about, that lack of trust is failing quickly. And it's not just me, there's a lot of parents that don't feel that we can trust our school. And we are a very divided country. We need to know that we're not all on the same page with COVID and mass mandates and vaccines. But I think they need to do some more surveys on what we want. What do the parents want for our children? Do we want testing being done in our schools and our kids called down to class to get tested? Some people might not think it's a big deal. To me, it's a huge deal. And I'm not comfortable with it. And I'm very, very close to pulling my daughter out of public school, as many parents around this country are. And that's terrible. I pay taxes in this town. I've been here my whole life. I'm very, very discouraged. And I think a lot of parents are. And I really hope, I know a lot of you on the board are on the same page, but we need that trust brought back, and we need to have a plan what's going to happen now that they've approved the 5 to 11-year-olds, because we're not all for the vaccine. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Else like to speak?
Hello, Katie Tylinsky.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Katie Tylinsky. Brooke Leonard. So we're here in
And
regards,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Brooke Leonard,
You need-
Tylinsky.
Yeah, I'm just gonna phonetically do
It's
that.
a T. So we're here in regards to the 3rd grade quarantine. It did not just affect the smallest of teachers or kids or whatever. It affected 15 girls immensely. Our children were not in any of the classes that were quarantined. This is in regards to Pop Warner cheerleading. And our girls had a chance to go to regionals. They won 1st place at their locals. They were 2nd place at their states, or 3rd place at their states. They came back to locals. They got 1st place. They were now brought to regionals. Regionals was this Saturday. Wednesday, we got a phone call. Now, they were not in school on Tuesday. Wednesday, we got a phone call. Immediately, come and pick up your kids. They are going home, they're quarantined. I called Dr. Miller on Thursday to find out, because we had hotel reservations. These kids need to know if they're going, because my child came out of that school sobbing, because she knew that her class was not affected. And she was being sent home. She didn't know why she was being sent home. She was just told she's going home. Here's all your stuff. Get out of here. That was it. And she had a substitute, and that's what the substitute basically told her. And she told my daughter, well, you can count your competition out. That's what she said. Okay? So my kid came home hysterical. So I'm sorry, it's emotional.
Yeah, sure.
So Dr. Miller, and he told me that technically our kids were not quarantined, but they cannot come to school because of an outbreak. I understand that. What outbreaks were in the classrooms? Was not affecting any of our children besides one. I said, can we still go? He said, Board of Education, the Board of Ed said that we can't go, period. We're quarantined, we can't go. So he said, technically, Board of Education doesn't have anything to do with an outside group, but outside group is Park and Rec, that's Pop Warner. We can't say, the school says we're quarantined, we're just gonna go without them knowing, because then you can ruin our protocol with Parks and Rec. So that's our understanding. So of course, I said, we need to know by 2 p.m. today. Nobody called me back at 2 p.m. I sent him a video of my child hysterically crying. And I said, what are you gonna tell these girls? What are we gonna tell the girls? Because your Board of Ed just told us that we cannot go. And he said, we technically can't tell you not to go. We're having a meeting at 12 o'clock. Tomorrow we'll let you know. Now, we were supposed to be leaving at 12:40. We were gonna all pick up our girls because it's a 2.5-hour ride up there. And we didn't want to get stuck in traffic. We wanted them to have a good night's rest before practice, before competition.
Monday.
So now they had no practice because they weren't there on Tuesday because of election day. Wednesday was their practice day, but they got quarantined. Thursday, we had 0 answers. And then on Friday, zero answers until I called him and I said, what is the decision? Like, our families are waiting, like these kids are like on their toes because they see their parents half packed, ready to go if the answer is yes. One child who hadn't been in school since the following Friday, previous Friday, tested positive. So that quarantined the class that had 4 cheerleaders in it. But yeah, they were quarantined on Friday, and then we get an email on Sunday night that says, oh no, you all can go to school and your kids can get tested in school. So how was that fair? You literally stripped. I asked if we could test. Can we test? Can we PCR test on Thursday? I would have figured out how to get a way to get all those girls PCR test on Thursday. And to come to find out, most of our girls, ones that did get tested, they were negative. No, like nobody had COVID, nobody had symptoms, nobody had anything. These girls were healthy, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. Why did they have to miss the biggest competition that could have brought them to nationals, which we just got to know? What's the plan for this stay and screen and stay? Like, what the heck? Our kids were totally fine, they could have gone. And then how do we stop this from happening to the junior Kiwis who are now their 4th, 5th graders who are now qualified to go to nationals December, right after Thanksgiving? What are we going to do for them? That's not just $150 that we lost from not being able to go. That's total for a family of 4 for 4 days in Disney with their park pass, whatever. It's $2,800 without food, without flights. But they'll lose $2,800 because something like this can happen again. It's not us, we can handle it all. It's our kids. And they could have, obviously, our kids could have gone, like our kids could have gone.
I'm sorry that happened to your child, and nobody wants to see their child that upset. What I can say is that I know that it doesn't make it any easier, that it's crazy for everyone, but I do know that there are procedures and protocols, and Dr. Brown has, and Dr. Miller have done FaceTime, Facebook sessions with parents who have questions, and DPH is very involved, and I don't think anyone has an answer for it.
I understand that you guys have all of that, and that's wonderful. It's great. I get a quarantine freaking text every other day, or a COVID text every other day. I get it. I'm actually sick of it. I'm done with it. I don't care anymore. But when it came down to this particular situation, it was this one said this one said that, this one said this one said that. There was no clear communication. None.
Well, that could definitely be.
Like, I mean, I don't know how many football players there were.
Is cheer run from Park and Rec?
It's Pop Warner. We go through Park and Rec for all of our gymnasium space, all of our,
Right.
but that's Pop Warner goes
So
through Park and Rec.
Parks and Rec were the ones who were going to make the decision about cheer. Is that correct?
No,
That's the question.
That's the question. Nobody could tell us who said
No
we
one
can't
would
go,
really
but
take
we
full
were quarantined.
responsibility.
We were
That was the answer that we were given.
Okay.
quarantined.
Well, I think it sounds like
So-
from our end, then we need to just get a little clearer on when outside.
Parks and Rec made their own decision when it quarantined. Parks and Rec was with the first selectman was on the call with DPH, Department of Health on Friday afternoon. When they heard the advice that we were told to quarantine the 3rd grade, they made their decision to continue to quarantine up the Pop Warner cheer.
So I have a question. If contact tracing is being done,
There was no contact tracing to the one kid that had the COVID, the positive case to our children with the 4 girls that were in that classroom.
we get an email for every single case.
contact tracing. You gotta call from the nurse, you gotta pick up your kid. This particular time,
They didn't contact us to that class.
they did not contact trace to that class. That kept us back from going to Boston. And the reason I'm upset is I emailed multiple administration about this yesterday. Full of heart, just like I am right now. Nobody replied.
I did call you and I got your voice menu up to your voice last Friday.
Thank you, Dr. Long. I appreciate that. They can't get this back. This is not a softball, a local softball team that can play another local softball team. It's not a local soccer game that they could have their pizza party next weekend instead of this weekend. This is something that they totally forfeited and might not ever be able to get back. And the reason that we're standing here is because we don't want other moms to ever feel this way again. Or other kids feel this way again.
Somebody has to take responsibility so that this does not happen again.
I do plan on addressing this in my superintendent's report, and I will say that I already had a conversation with our here about juniors and about the plan that we did to keep the students out of school 5 days prior to, so that if there's any outbreaks, that they will not be affected. So we're looking at how we can connect with the students.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else would like to speak?
Sure.
Hi. Hello.
I'm Shannon Utek. Brevity is not my strong point, so I'm gonna try to keep it real short with you. Utek, UTECHT.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate, kind of piggyback on what's been said the past couple times. My issue with the over quarantining and the over testing with the children is, from my background, now I'm getting emotional. See the mom cry makes me want to cry. Being a mother of 5 children in the district and, having a master's in school psychology and having been, a former first grade teacher, I'm seeing the undue stress that the children are being caused by all of this, in my opinion, and it's my opinion because everybody's very heated about this, over testing and them going to school and feeling like, I've had my kindergartner say to me, am I gonna pulled out midday? And that's a fearful place to be, coming from a psychological background, knowing that the one place you put your children in is school. And for those 8 hours, those are the people they go to. That is where they feel safe and they feel comfortable. And they get to, let me tell you, I've taught in Bridgeport, I've been in Westport, I've been all across the board, in inner city and, suburban and no matter where you go, kids walk all lines of life. And when they are comfortable and they feel safe with the teacher, they will talk to that teacher about anything. And I feel like these children feel so pulled with COVID. They feel like they're in and out. I've had my kindergartner say to me, am I gonna make it through the school day, or are they gonna call and you're gonna pick me up again? And that's heartbreaking to me. And that is, that's the cold hard reality of the world that we're living in right now. I just feel like if we could reevaluate as a district, and I don't know how that happens. I'm so far removed because, like I said, I have 5 kids, so I'm not teaching anymore. And I don't know policies as well as I used to. But I just, the need to walk-through testing in the school systems, I feel like presents an undue stress on children that they don't need. We're all testing them every time we have to, that they get pulled out and the contact tracing that's happening that is at such a level. I'm hoping that changes now with, Lamont's new mandates and all of that. I hope we can reevaluate as a district how to make that more comfortable at an emotional level for the children, that they don't feel like they're ticking time bombs. Because if we've learned anything from this virus, we've learned they're not spreading it the way that we thought they were, and they're not, and they don't need to feel like that. They don't need to feel like the air that they breathe is toxic. And I get it, there's a lot on the level that we can't do with mask mandates and all of that, but I just hope we can maybe come together and do something, even if it's like a monthly, I've mentioned this before to some of the teachers that I talked to, even if it's a monthly, like a psychologist comes in and talks to the kids about, you know, comfort and safety and just not making them feel like there's, yeah, they're dirty. Yeah, I can't think of a better word for it, but that's it. I told you brevity's not my strong point, so just that's it.
And thank you, and I think you brought up some good points that I think that can be implemented.
I would love if like a school psychologist could just go in, especially these K through 2 babies. They are so confused. And it'd be great if they could just have like a, you know, a monthly meeting about like.
Confused right here, so she heard you.
Yeah, and I like her. I like all y'all.
And you know what, the other thing is, you know, it might sound cliche, but, you know, I feel for your stress, I feel for your children. You know, I just will share with you that I'm so glad that mine are older and I don't have to deal with it, so I understand it, and, you know, just that, you know, we truly in our heart of hearts are trying to do the best thing for everyone, and I know Dr. Miller and Mr. Gibbert, and if you ever knew the hours of time that they spent, you know, talking to DPH, you know, mandates that we
trust
have
me.
from Hartford.
Dr.
and
Miller
then-
talks to me quite a bit too.
So
I understand, and I'm a huge, you know, advocate and, you know, a cheerleader for this town.
Right.
I came in here kicking and screaming, saying, you know, there's no restaurants, it's all cows, I'll never stay here, and I love it here. The community is wonderful, and I know everybody's rallying to do their best, but, you know, there are some things that are, at this point, you know, I'm just concerned for the kids, for their emotional health. I just want it to be, you know, I just don't want everything to be about policy and not about their, you know, their well-being.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna
Thank
go.
you so much. Yep, hold up.
Hi, my name is Alicia Lakumsky. I am a resident of Oxford. I've been here for about 30 years. I think there's a huge overreach going on with kids and their parents. I am so against this. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but after I listened to these parents, I am outraged by everything that is going on in this town. I have adult children. I say thank you, God, every day that I don't have kids in the school system, because I think I would be running at all of your offices every day screaming about what is going on. They're telling us to follow the science. I don't see it. It doesn't make sense. When something doesn't make sense, it's not true. I do know that much. I hear tonight the anxiety of the parents with their children. I am beside myself because I don't know what that's like, but I do know I did have children and they were small at one time. And I feel like we're doing our kids a big disservice of what is happening. I don't have all the answers, and I know everybody here doesn't have all the answers. I do think maybe everybody got some COVID money. Maybe we should run a pilot program here in Oxford with parents and school boards. I think we need to start listening to our parents. They are in total control of their children. I know one thing. They birthed these kids. They do have control over their children. And I think a lot of people are rebelling because this is not right. And I know we're trying to follow the science. And I know there's a lot of doctors. Just because you have a doctor or a PhD doesn't mean you know it all either. And I work with a lot of them, just so you know. I want to see the data come back. I actually work for a huge place and we're waiting for the data. I want to see it. Data takes many years before it comes back. We all know how clinical, this is a clinical trial that we're in, okay? And we all know all the years it takes to go from bench to bedside. We're talking 20 and 30 years. This is 1 year, 1.5 years, and they want us to make these decisions for the children. I don't know. I'm just hoping that you guys can put something together because I hear the anxiety and I feel really bad for the kids today. And I just hope that maybe you guys can work something out with these parents. I just have to let you know that I will be showing up because I think all this needs to be held accountable. for all the decisions that are being made here. And I think it's something that can be worked out, because Oxford's a beautiful town. And I don't want to see it wrecked like a lot of other places are getting wrecked, and it's being divided over a lot of political things too. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marisa Hillman.
Teresa.
Yes, I live in Oxford. My daughter was up here reading the little stack.
Fantastic.
So I have some questions. I'm not sure, who. I feel like there's a lot I don't know. I pulled, my daughter does best with structure. We pulled her out of Oxford last year. I spent 2 hours a day driving her back and forth to private school. She was in school full-time, 5 days a week, all year. And I want to say maybe 3-4 times at most, for no more than 2 or 3 days at a time. They did remote learning. There was a case or two in the school. But we knew exactly what to expect. We knew that they would go home. They would log in. Sometimes it was an entire class's home. Other times it was a couple of kids, like the positive case and the primary contact. My daughter was, home for both of those times. And when she was a primary contact, she logged in, the teacher had, taught the rest of the class as usual, but had the computer set up. So my daughter was still in class without, physically being there. She participated all day. Here I have, the commuting was a lot on her, on us. We brought her back to Oxford, hoping that there would be some sort of, structure and consistency here. And it's like, I feel like every day I'm waiting for the call, like, come pick her up. She, we had COVID. I went to her house. I've got the vaccine. Like, it's not something that we worry about in our house. But still, and just like these girls, I mean, they were quarantined for no reason, for nothing. Like, they lost out for nothing. And I just I don't know, I feel like I'm always waiting for that call or for that email. My daughter had a cold one day and I had to pick her up, and the nurse was like, well, maybe you should have her tested. You might want to. I'm like, well, do I have to? Well, did you see her pediatrician? And I said, no, her pediatrician would not see her. And their response to me was, well, if your school's not requiring it, no, this is something you treat at home with fluids and maybe some Tylenol and let her watch TV. I've been hearing from other parents that their kids are sent home. I've seen emails that kids were expected to log in for remote learning. I've spoken to parents who their younger children seem to get sent home with a packet of busy work when they're quarantined. I have I feel like there's no clear communication as to what the requirements are, what the procedures are. I know, for me, it was a suggestion that I get my daughter tested for COVID. But then, I have a neighbor who kept her son home and she said she was required to get him tested for COVID. So I just I just came back into the school district this year, and I don't know, it's not very clear. And I get the emails. I don't have Facebook, so I'm not on those chats with Dr. Brown. I know, so for parents who are not on social media, I feel like we're, I don't know what to do. It just seems like everyone's like, well, he said this and she said that, and he said she, it's just a lot of, it feels very messy to me, coming from, last year when it was very well organized and very well done, and it just seems.
Sure. Respond to two things. One, our live sessions are both on Facebook and Zoom, so you don't need to switch.
I was
to
gonna
live
ask.
ones, and we have up to 500 people, so you never reach that speed.
Okay.
Two, give me a call. I'd be here in your number. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have related to quarantining and testing and all that stuff that you have questions I can go into.
Thank you so much. Let's see, number 5 on the agenda, board comments and communications. We have none. State of the schools. It's been very, very patient. So I believe that's where we are.
Perfect. Well, good evening, everyone. Now that you all have received a copy of my report, hopefully you had a chance to kind of go through it. I'll just touch on a few areas and then feel free to ask questions. The first part of the report is student enrollment. We currently have 383 kiddos attending Quaker Farms, grades pre-K to 2. Class size, as you can see, averages around between 18 and 20, depending on the grade level. Kindergarten being the highest, even with our 7th section of kindergarten. Some of our exciting happenings, as you can, I'm sure that you read through them. Our most latest was our K2, pre-K2 pumpkin patch, which again, a special thank you to the Oxford PTO. Thank you to the PTO for funding the pumpkins. It was wonderful to see the kiddos get off the bus and see 400 pumpkins in front of the school. So the kids were super excited. It was finally bringing back a little bit of normalcy to our kiddos. So they were super excited. The next day was our Halloween parade, which obviously we did not have last year. So as you all know, if you've been in Oxford for a long time, it's the staple to Quaker Farms. Everyone questions and asks about the Halloween parade. So to not have it last year was very, very disappointing and upsetting to the kiddos. And this year, I think we probably had the most parents that I've ever seen in my 24 years here. So it was really exciting for the kiddos to be able to walk around. I think the parents were maybe more excited than the kids. And then the staff were super excited. You're right, I agree. It just brought this sense of when the kids got off the bus and they were in their costumes, it was like, finally, like, despite the masks, because the masks just sort of fit the costumes too, so it was really great. They were just like, just so different. I just felt like they just had this aura about them. They just came in so thrilled, and there was music, and they were just super excited. So it just, I don't know, it just melted my heart a little bit. And just seeing all the families, like that was probably the most people I've seen in quite some time. And just walking through it just was really a wonderful experience. So again, the parents, the lack of parents in the building is really what I miss the most. Again, being there for 24 years, we had parents in all the time. So again, bringing that back just felt normal, and it was wonderful for those kiddos as well as the staff. I think it boosted the morale. I think parents were excited to come to Quaker Farms because, again, like I said, I miss seeing all of that interaction. Just a couple of things that we're doing in November. We have our picture retake day. We have our pajama drive, which is for the pajama program, which just collects pajamas and books for those children who are in foster care. We are participating in the district-wide Thanksgiving food drive. And our current monthly Quaker Farms window pane art gallery is, if you've been to Quaker Farms or if you take a walk outside, the window panes in the front foyer are filled with student artwork. Parents can't come in to the building, so we want to obviously post things. And there are families that have commented, oh, during our walk around the building on Saturday, we stopped in and we saw all the beautiful artwork. So I'm just trying to keep that updated as much as possible. I've also presented the student activity report, which obviously is pretty self-explanatory. And then just touching on a couple of things based on our strategic priorities. There are those 4 buckets that I had talked about the last time I was here. The first priority being implementing high impact instructional strategies. Teachers are continuing to use those high impact instructional strategies on a daily basis. So you'll walk in, you'll see learning targets, you'll see kids talking about the target, success criteria, you'll see self-assessment going on. Really, really great strategies that are being implemented daily. Professional development has been offered as well to all staff in regards to those areas. We continue to have our grade level meetings and monthly staff meetings to discuss and share examples. I think the best thing is we can talk to staff about what these instructional strategies are, how to implement them and what to do, but really coming away with examples. So again, just brought a couple, just walking in and talking about hot questions and higher order thinking. We can talk to teachers about that, but for teachers to actually just be able to leave a meeting and say, oh, I can go implement this in my classroom tomorrow, is really the key to teacher success. And as we know, they have lots on their plates and they want what's best for kiddos. So just giving them something and talking about the high level questioning and having something already done for them, they were like, oh my God, it just elicits a lot of conversation and a lot of great things came out of just a simple sample like this. So really providing them with those samples, whether it's myself providing, I found these for them, really talk about what can they use, because again, you could talk about the textbook theory behind it, but it's really about how they're implemented in the classroom. So again, teachers commented how it was awesome to leave our grade level meetings or our team meetings with stuff to do that they can just go and try. So that's been really successful. We also had our first non-evaluative walkthrough, which took place at Quaker Farms as well as Oxford Center School on October 28th. And really, we at our first admin meeting in November, we talked about that data and all of the information that we had gathered based on those instructional strategies, such as learning targets, success criteria, self-assessment. I included some of that information. I'm not going to read it through, but again, our percentages were really, really high. Teachers were phenomenal. Again, I'm not just biased because they're Quaker Farm teachers, but the teachers that I got to observe over at Oxford Center School, there was really great instructional strategies taking place, and the data supports that for our very first walkthrough. The numbers are very reflective of the things that we saw and a lot of great teaching that was in fact going on. Our second bucket, our priority number 2, is really talking about student learning outcomes, and I went into great depth in regards to that at our last meeting when we went over our strategic or school improvement plan. In that area falls our Iready assessment, and as I had talked about earlier, we had given it to grades 1 and 2. We started the week of October 18th, so we did. It did take about 2 weeks. So last week was really our first week of looking at the data and really diving into it. We didn't want to rush the kiddos because again, it's a little bit longer than the STAR assessment. So really providing them with that time to take the test. We obviously had to do makeups and get all of that information. So last week we really started looking at that data. So I did print out some of the scores that came directly from Iready. Some of the graphs, I know that they were a little bit smaller to read. It looked much larger when I was doing it in my document. So basically it's a 5-leveled tiered level, and there's mid above, early on, 1 grade level below, 2 grade levels below, and then that 5th tier is 3 grade levels below, but because Quaker Farms only goes up to grade 2, we don't have that 5th level. So when you see a 5-level score, that's kind of what that means. And again, first grade, yeah, sure.
So for that, those color coded, so red is more than 1 grade below, yellow is below grade level in a year, right? Blue is at grade.
I don't have a blue.
Right, so is your white blue?
My white is technically, I wanted to stick with what Iready uses because otherwise, for me, it gets a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
So the white is really green with black lines through it, but I couldn't figure out how to make that on there. So,
Yeah, so could the headings just be, so when you say, could they be consistent or are they consistent with Iready?
These headings are consistent with that. Yes.
So 2 below means 2 grades.
2 grades level below.
1 below means 1 grade below, obviously. Early on means that mean.
Early on in the school year. So that's actually where we want kiddos to be. So early on means early on first grade if we're talking about the first grade score. So beginning of the year.
Okay. Beginning of the year. And mid or above, are you talking about time frame?
Mid school year. So it would be like mid first grade level or above.
Okay, gotcha.
And I took the language directly from Iready.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and I tried to look up Iready to see what it was either, and it was a little different on each report, so that's why I was trying to.
Correct, and it's very tiny at the top, so that graph literally came from the Iready, and then the second graph, which is placement by domain, when you're using Iready, you can just scroll over that line, that bar graph, and the percentages pop up.
Okay.
But I wasn't able to print that out, so that's why I just kind of made it bigger at the bottom.
Yeah, just so that we understand. So
Sure.
when you're comparing apples to apples. So thank you.
What's really nice with Iready is that it breaks it down in domains. So where we had STAR previous or NWEA, it just sort of categorized ELA just as ELA. This really breaks it down. So it breaks it down to the 5 domains: phonemic awareness, phonics, high frequency words, vocabulary, literature, both fiction and nonfiction. So it really breaks it down to see where the kiddos' strengths and weaknesses are specifically. And then obviously for math, it does the same thing. So it gives an overall placement, but again, I'm looking at it as well as my SRBI team, the classroom teachers, we're really looking at it by domains, because that's where we're really getting most of our information from. And overall it's great, but we really want to break it down to specifics. Basically what we found is that our students taking this is one assessment. We're currently doing additional assessments. We have our curriculum-based assessments. This is a one-time snapshot. overall, it looks like our kiddos are currently one grade level behind in the majority of the areas. Am I surprised at that? No, I'm working in a school with almost 400 little ones that have never had a normal school year. You think about it, every child in my building has never had a normal school year. So for me to look at these results and say, it's typically that they're one grade level below. That was my expectation when they took this test. Obviously, our goal is for them to show growth and improvement over time. Things that we are doing currently, again, we just started looking at the data last week. Again, the data is being used to help students, address very specific needs. A teacher can pull up their class roster, they can scroll on a child's name, and you're going to get a very specific breakdown of the child's strengths, the child's weaknesses in every single domain. And then as you continue on, there's specific paragraphs about cans and what the child can do and what the child needs. And there's paragraphs as to what the child has been able to show, what they can do, and then very specific areas of what the next steps are. And literally it lists very specific objectives. In order for that child to show growth, you need to work on A, B, C, and D. And then it also provides resources. So you can click on those resources and lesson plans come up. I have never seen that in NWEA. I've never seen that in STAR. It's very tailored to very specific kiddos' needs. It aligns lessons. So when we start on the student pathways, on those learning pathways for kiddos, we can assign specific lessons to those kids as well. And we're obviously looking at a plan to start rolling out kiddos working on Iready, whether it's maybe after lunch and recess when kids are coming in and they're using the bathroom and they're getting a drink, providing some time for them to work on their learning pathways in the classroom, as well as looking at it at home. Lots of parents are asking for some resources at home. This will give them experience using the Iready, and again, our hope is for us to show growth over time. Our special ed teachers are also using it. Again, they get their caseloads of kiddos. They get to look at their scores, see those areas that they're really doing well in, those areas that they need some extra help in, and personalizing their learning paths as well.
And if you're not happy, I had a question about strategic priority. It's just really about, I know that, the Iready gives the domain to the data levels, but I believe they also give more context. I know you're from everything, but just questions about presentation of, the average score, as well as the other scores and so forth. Is something that's a hard number, so you can compare.
They do give a student's, when you go in, when you scroll into each student's profile, they will give a student scale score, and then they will also give a target growth. So right now, this is simple baseline. And if you look at each student's, say a student scored a 380, they'll say, okay, based on that scale score, the child's expected target growth is to regain 42 points. So they do specifically give that for the classroom teachers as well. So yes, that's another way of looking at the data. Yes, they do give that very specifically. Yeah. Any other questions about? No, that was a great question.
I didn't know, are you done or are you going?
I was just going to go on to number 3, 4.
Well, we can also, we all read it. We can also ask if anyone has any questions.
That's perfect. That's even better.
Or anything that Rachel's talked to us about today, or anything that Steve?
Yeah, just a quick question on when we talk about social, emotional, ruler, professional development. So the ruler system we purchased, are we following it true to the system, choosing your programs you want to use and putting them into the system, and that's the standard that teachers are using, or are they allowed to do their own stuff?
With Ruler, it's a very prescribed program, right. So it's different teaching tools. So creating the class charter, all classrooms have the class charter, we have a school charter. It's just how you want to feel at school, how do you want to act, how do you want to see others acting in regards to behavior, how we're feeling in the classrooms. It's very specific, so we are utilizing all the Ruler lessons that are in that. It's certainly if teachers want to expand on something, we do have lots of books that were purchased by Tracy Hussey for social emotional learning that are also in our book room, so teachers can certainly go to those books maybe that aren't necessarily listed in Ruler, but they are wonderful resources for our little ones. They're very engaging, they're child appropriate. So again, we do follow all the Ruler lessons, and actually our school psychologists and our social worker are going into classrooms, teaching a variety of lessons in regards to Ruler or assisting the teacher in certain aspects. So the our school psychologist and social worker are helping as needed. They were also trained in ruler, so they have that background as well as myself and one first grade teacher. So typically we kind of buddy up, so we did some ruler training, just kind of seeing where everybody's at. So we had our staff meeting today, so my school psychologist went to one grade level just to kind of make sure everybody was on the same page. One of my first grade teachers, she met with the first grade team about ruler. My social worker met with the second grade team. So again, we're just trying to be very consistent with how we approach ruler, and the kids are phenomenal. You ask them, how are you feeling today? Obviously, we're using the mood meter a lot, and the kids are very expressive in how they're feeling, and they're very confident and they feel very comfortable coming to us with any questions or concerns they have. And again, they're little, so they just want to share everything with us, whether it's good, bad, positive, negative, and really encourage that in all the classrooms. So I am seeing. I'm sorry.
Where does ruler end?
In what grade?
Yeah.
Do anybody know that?
Peace.
Well, to high school.
Yeah, I believe it was
You'll
always
find
there.
that it's slightly different high school level and have a slightly different approach at high school level, but it is a K-12.
Yeah.
When this keeps with the curriculum, this may be not an answer for you, I think a question for you, and you can flow that elsewhere, but we were told that it was not a program, it's not a curriculum, and lesson plans sound like a curriculum. It's strategies that can be woven into existing curriculums, so.
There are ruler lessons. We obviously have to teach the children how to use the mood meter. So maybe it's the wrong wording, but we have to teach them how to use the blueprint. Or what is the blueprint? What does that even mean to a 5-year-old? How do you look at the mood meter? Like what quadrant are you on? So it really talks about those types of how do you use the tools in ruler. So maybe that's maybe a better word, but there are also some activities to do. It's not a very prescribed, I don't want to say it's a very prescribed program, but there are lessons to do and how to use that mood meter at any point in the day, which necessarily isn't a ruler lesson. It's just maybe the afternoon the child comes in and they're having a really, really difficult time. And you might say, how are you feeling? And they might say, I feel like I'm in the red today. And even staff are using it as well. So I wouldn't say that that's a specific lesson. It's more of how they're using it and how they're feeling. But I'm happy to, obviously, the website at ruler that we use, certainly we can print out some of those activities and kind of share them. That's
I think what we're saying is that it's not like you have math, science, social studies. ruler.
no.
It's just
No.
all programs to teach them how to. Any other questions of Rachel? Thank you so much.
And our kindergartners will be taking the Iready for their baseline in January.
God bless. Thanks, Rachel. So now we're going on Zoom with Steve.
He should be on through the audio. We're not going to see his video, but still hear him.
Oh, no, we can see him.
I don't have a big screen at here.
Oh, I can
You
see.
can
Okay. I need.
speak in video. on.
Here's the audio. I'm muted too. There it is. So,
Here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Looks like everybody's walking out. Was it something I said? Wow. Number one, thank you for accommodating. I'm getting a lot of feedback on my machine because it's going through your machine and coming back out. So I'm not sure how we do that. Let me try that again. Number one, I just want to say thank you very much for accommodating my personal needs tonight. I'm going to do two things. One is, Stephanie, hear what you said earlier about you read my report. So I'm not going to go through it in too much detail. I don't think I could if I had to. And then secondly, Rachel, as always, does a gracious and thorough job when it comes to her presentation. So because we're basing these reports off of our school improvement plans, probably 75% of them have a lot of similarities or sameness. So that being said, I'd like to highlight a couple of things. Number one, I'd like to jump to strategic priority number 2, where the data graphs are presented. Oxford Center School is in a little different boat in the sense that, we're dealing with SBAC annually. We are administering things like STAR or Iready the same way in all 3 grade levels. There's no differentiation like there is at Quaker for kindergarten, 1st grade, or 2nd grade. And I just wanted to give you the baseline data for the information that we have on this group of kiddos that goes back to last spring. Their STAR scores, their SBAC scores. And then I also wanted to give you that side by side with this fall's data when it comes to the Iready scores and BAS, particularly in grade 3. So just, I'm sure you can understand that in future reports, we'll be taking this baseline data and looking for comparisons when it comes to student achievement and student growth so that we can monitor that across time. And obviously this is new data or new data sets to us, and it's data in a new world in the sense that we are, looking at this data as COVID data as opposed to pre-COVID data. So we'll refer back to this data many times between now and the end of the school year. The next thing I'd like to just mention is our use of Iready. Number one, I just want to kind of put a disclaimer out there that Iready is not a replacement for high quality instruction in our classrooms, in our special ed classrooms, and in our early intervention programs. There is no substitute for teacher-student live learning. This Iready program does help us guide our instruction. It helps us monitor student progress, and it provides supports that we wouldn't have otherwise. So just to give you a couple of examples, we can look at this Iready data in large group. For example, we could look at a whole grade level and look where our strengths and weaknesses are at. An individual classroom teacher can look at her or his entire classroom to determine what the overall needs are with strengths and weaknesses for the instruction that needs to happen in that classroom. But we can also break this down into small groups. We can look for groups of students in a particular classroom that have some deficits or strengths, because we can use it for enrichment and curriculum compacting purposes as well. So we can identify targeted areas of instruction for small groups in the classroom. We can also use those grouping in a special ed classroom, early intervention classroom, et cetera. And when we're talking about the use of Iready in those small groups, it's not a technology-based use. It's a, here's suggested activities, here's a sample lesson plan, here's resources and materials that you might want to think about in order to teach and help students learn particular concepts. And then the third layer of this goes down to the individual layer. And I think Rachel mentioned the fact that every student, based upon their diagnostic assessment, has an individual pathway that's automatically set up for them once they complete the assessment. And we're using that to the recommendation, to the level of recommendation for Iready, in the sense that if Iready says if students utilize on their own the learning pathways, the technology part of this, 45 minutes in math and 45 minutes in reading each week, that we'll see the desired results. So we're making a very concerted effort right now to find creative ways to work the individual learning pathways into each student's learning day and week. But again, I'm going to circle back around. It's not instead of the high quality instruction that's happening in the classroom, and it's not it's not in place of that. So we'll be able to, again, think about this. We just had professional development on this on November 2nd. So teachers are exploring the use of all this stuff right now. As we learn more and gain more experience and expertise, we'll be able to share more information, more specific information, and ultimately evaluate what is successful with regard to this program and what may not be successful. So that's as much as I want to embellish things right now. I'm open to any questions that people might have.
I'm kind of the same. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good, thank you. So yeah, I'm just, because I know this is, I mean, we're new to this too, so it's something that you guys are obviously going to be using to, inform the teachers to inform their instruction. So for your legend, you are red, yellow, blue, and green, right? So you do have a blue level. Rachel said she didn't. I'm just trying to coordinate this so that I can understand when we look at these. So your level 1, your red level is more than 1 grade below. Your yellow is below grade level within a year. Is this correct, or?
Yeah, Steph, I always start at the blue and basically say that the blue is at grade level. And then if students are above grade level, they go to the green. And if they're slightly below grade level, which is basically within a year, they're in the yellow. And if they're more than a grade level below, they fall into the red. It doesn't matter whether it's 2 grade levels below or 4 grade levels below. But what I'm attempting to do there is, you mentioned apples to apples earlier. This is not apples to apples because the thresholds for all these assessments are different, but it does allow us to, in kind of general terms, in a fruit category, basically be able to say, how many kids are at, above, slightly below, or significantly below grade level. And it mirrors the SBAC.
Right, so then just my other question is, like I said, just for my understanding, so if we look at the grade 4 fall data. So when we have SBAC of spring of 21, that was grade 3, is that correct? Or
that's correct.
in other words, all right, so this is not comparing the same cohort of kids. So this would be just kind of a comparison of how.
I'm not sure I understand your question, but.
Yeah, I'm formulating it properly, but I mean, is there a way, in other words, so if we know that's the 3rd grade, SBAC math 21, and then it's 3rd grade SBAC reading 21, and then we look at the STAR math, those are all those are their 3rd grade scores, or those were the kids? So we are comparing the same cohorts, my question, my very jumbled question.
Yes, so that grade 4 fall data graph is all data on the same group of kids, and that same group of kids is our current 4th graders. So those SBAC scores are last spring, those STAR scores are last spring, the Iready scores are this fall.
I understand that, but so what we're saying is that, so it's the same, so these are the 3rd grader scores for SBAC and STAR math, and then now that same group of kids are now in the fall of 4th grade, and that's where they are now.
Yeah, Iready, yes.
Right, is that makes sense, yes. Okay, so like I said, in looking, STAR, and I know STAR and Iready are not compatible, that would be kind of obvious in the way that the numbers are so different in Iready than in STAR. So I do believe that you said that is not, that's just it's going to be now a new level of how you are going to see where kids' strengths and weaknesses are and move forward. So there's really no comparison in the STAR math and the Iready. Is that correct?
No, it's just to kind of take a look at and see where we were at and where we're, figure out where we're going.
Right. Okay. But from this point forward, we'll just be comparing Iready to Iready. We're not going to be including, and then SBAC is different, but we're not going to be including anymore.
Correct. This is the last time you hear me talk about that.
And we will make sure moving forward that there's more consistency between school reports, so that coding is all the same.
Yeah, just so that, we're not immersed in this anymore. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense to you guys, but then,
This is the first time we're presenting Iready.
Yeah. So hey, it's all good. We appreciate it. So that's it. Were you done, Heath? Are you ready for questions?
I'm done.
Okay, go ahead, Jill.
Quick question. I already asked Rachel, and if I asked this whenever data is presented. What would be helpful is to see the scale of scores, and I think you mentioned this in presentations, so that if we have the average scale of scores for each grade level, and previously was also presented for disaggregated special education, et cetera, it's much more quantifiable to compare. And we all understand that the last year was most difficult, so there's no intent to judge or evaluate on the basis of that. But if we want to see, say, back to the 2020 scores and how they were presented, and then compare them to how the students finish in this year, I'd really like to see those quantifiable scale scores, average per grade level, because then we have an actual hard number that we can see growth for areas of difficulty.
Again, if the teachers and administrators are seeing those hard scores, you know, and they're just, and then we can just see the progress that's coming, you know, from the levels that Iready gives us. I mean, I think at the board level, that's adequate. This just, you know, I mean, if that's how they're presenting.
Yeah, again, let's just keep in mind, we just implemented this thing within the past month or so. So we still have a lot of learning to do and a lot of playing around to do on this with this data to figure out what are the most meaningful aspects of it to kind of call out. So we'll definitely be working on that. And if scale scores become something that says, yeah, let's monitor scale scores, let's monitor growth scores, you know, we'll do all of it. We just need some time to figure it out.
Does Iready give you an average scale score? Is that something you have to disaggregate? And you might not even know that because you're just starting with this.
If possible, if it doesn't give us directly to the system, it only affects the data and average score.
Maybe it's something that you guys can decide on an administrative level, like, which is for our purposes, what is the best way to report? Because like I said, what we're interested in is student growth. I mean, what goes down on the ground level. And I thought Rachel's explanation was great, that at that level, the teachers see the scale scores and they see the score and they see where the child needs to go and they see what needs to happen in order to get them.
At the class level, the teachers use that data to form their instruction to figure out what that individual student needs to do with that student for in the area that they need.
Right.
And as Rachel and described, the assessment gives targeted set of skills and concepts that those students need to pull out that group and have targeted lessons to those students. The teachers are using that data.
Yeah.
At the board level, we need to understand there's 30% of our students that are below grade level by 2 grades.
Exactly.
What are we doing about that?
We're going to see that number go down. That's
Correct. That's what you want to see.
Down to 0, right?
And just one other thing too that I had commented on, which I didn't talk about, but when teachers scroll onto each of the domains, when they talk about each of the domains, the teachers get like this phenomenal graph, which there's so much in Iready that when you explore it, you could just be on this thing for ever. Like there's just links and links and like he said, it's taken us this long and I'm not an expert at it at all because every time I go on it, there's something new to see. So there's a lot of information, but for teachers just to see their student name and then all of the domains broken out and as it's color coded and it literally tells each of the domains and it says if it's an emerging, if I'm a first grade teacher, I might say emerging kindergarten, grade K, early first, mid first, late first, or maxed out. So it is so specific. It's really amazing to see that. And teachers are like, wow, I've never seen something that looks like this. And you click on each one and it says the areas of growth that are needed. It's all right there for teachers, but to see something so specific for every child.
It's great with the stress of parents that they're going to be able to see their kids improving. So I think that will help in the whole stress that everyone.
And as I've been talking to teachers, it's that ease of access to data, that reporting, the system of getting in, being able to see what the students need very easily and efficiently, quickly. I'm hearing that over and over again from teachers.
Takes all the guesswork out of the teachers that used to have to try to figure that out and then plug something and try to find something to address that. So it takes a lot of work, legwork off the teacher.
Right, and I think that we as a school district will mature in how we're using the data and how we're using the system. So 12 months from now, our conversations will be very different.
Like this. Anybody else have questions for Heath? Thank you, Heath.
And I do want to thank
Hope you feel better.
Heath is home right now. Heath, thank you for doing this on your sick day.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you, Rachel.
Has anybody seen Jackie? Because she said she did.
She's still on. Jackie, thumbs up. Here, 2 thumbs up to give us.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because she said she got it.
Okay, now, thank you, Rachel, so
Thank you so
much. Robert, are you doing Veterans Day celebration or something?
I'm going to be very brief considering the time that we are right now. As a reminder, Veterans Day in high school is being celebrated 8 o'clock Thursday morning. The high school collected a list of veterans that would like to participate. We drive through breakfast. The culinary program has baked various food options, like coffee for the veterans. So we music outside for various high school musicians. George Temple will be there. Any of you that would like to be there, you're welcome to be there for part of the full time. I will be there. It's just a really nice way to interact with veterans, high school students, and it is open to the public. So you're welcome to be there at 8 o'clock Thursday morning.
Yeah, looks great. We're all invited, and also going to mention First Lieutenant William Miller, my son, who served for 8 years. So that's very nice that they reached out to me and said, "You mentioned that your son had wanted, been in Afghanistan." So it was very touching that they wanted to recognize, and I really appreciate it. Are you good with that then?
I am good, and I will update in my Friday notes what each of the school is doing to various different degrees of Veterans Day. I think what you heard earlier today.
So
Level.
so good.
We did one for into the middle school earlier yesterday. There was a sign up right, celebrating veterans across the board. Students are interacting with veterans in many different ways this week.
Great. So in this next section, I'm going to ask you guys to just indulge me for and tell me what you think about this. These are the board goals that we all agreed on, and then myself and Deb and Shelley put the metrics in. And the metrics are what's important for Rob to then see what the board, where we're going in our goals, and then for him to create his goals. So I'm thinking that, I don't even know if this is so set, but could we make a motion? Because I meant to give this to you guys earlier, and I apologize, I don't think that I did. So could we make a motion to tentatively approve these with, the possibility of some changes so that, and then we can revisit it or visit it at the next meeting in case any board members have any questions. I don't want you to have to wait 2 weeks to get it.
Actually, I have a second to that. I have for you in progress report is my draft version of my goals that align with this. So
Okay.
I was going to give that to you tonight to review. So at the next meeting, we could all see the alignment between the two. If any changes that we need to make between yours and mine, that would be the opportunity to revisit and see if this state is speaking to that.
Okay, wonderful. So then it sounds like we don't even need to make a motion for this. This work's already getting done, and we'll just confirm. We'll see if there needs to be any tweaking and confirm. Is everybody good with that? Yeah, in fact, so you guys get a chance to look at this. There might be something that you want to add or question or whatever, and then it'll be meshed in with Robert's.
So are we gonna get Robert?
I
He
have-
said
I have a
he
draft
has it.
tonight.
Yeah, and just so that you know, this was, thank you. Okay, that this was, will be done earlier last year. We just got, Jason Lee, we just got off track. So this ideally will be in place, in September so that we can hit the ground running. But, I'm really proud of these goals and I'm proud of the metrics. And this is one of the first times that I remember the goal of a board even having this. So I thank everyone for your participation in it, and I think it's going to help us be. So, all right, so we don't have to do anything for that. Excellent. Did you have a question?
No, I said,
So now, Dr. Miller.
Okay, I wrote a lot of stuff I was talking about, but in the interest of time, I'll go as fast as possible. Okay. Obviously, the big topic of the evening was what took place at Center School last week. And just to revisit, 2 weeks ago, we started seeing emergence of cases in one particular third grade classroom. Over the course of that weekend, so this is Halloween weekend, as Principal Building did come down with COVID, it was determined that the only place that he would have gotten it was in a third grade class that he had done an observation the previous, that Tuesday before the weekend. Monday morning rolled around, By that point, we had close to 67 students that had tested positive from that classroom out of 18. The teacher had also tested positive from that classroom. Both adults that had tested positive were fully vaccinated. So we had a set of students that were sick, and we had 2 vaccinated adults that were sick. At that point, I needed to get our office grade involved. I had to give them an update of where we stood with the current situation. As the day progressed, as I communicated with them, we had additional cases that came in. They immediately said I needed to quarantine that 3rd grade classroom. They were concerned that this 3rd grade classroom would be outreaching to other classes in the building. We made an internal decision that the professional learning on Tuesday would be remote for that school, so we asked all staff to stay home. We engaged all custodians in a deep thorough clean of the building to try and sanitize the entire building. Wednesday rolled around, we had additional cases. By that point, we had 6 adults in the building that were sick for various COVID-related symptoms that were awaiting tests, all fully vaccinated people, but all symptoms. In bed, fever, having trouble breathing. We got Untitled involved, and they said that we were moments away from a full outbreak in the building. They were thoroughly convinced that if we did not shut down the 3rd grade then and there, and some students would be from home, that we could have an outbreak across the entire building, across the town.
How many of those adults tested positive that were still, you said 6 were sick, right?
6 were sick. We ended up with later that night, we had another person that was had no symptoms that tested positive. And we're still waiting test results from various other people that actually went home sick on Wednesday. They were also tested on Wednesday. And we had
Shouldn't they have a
students.
test back on that Tuesday? Are they
We
ready?
all tested from that, so this was last week.
Right, so that's what I'm asking. So of those, how many were COVID positive?
Of those, we ended up with 4 adults in the building that tested positive for COVID. And we had 15, it ended up being 15 altogether between students and staff that were connected to this. There were 2 students, one at the middle school and one at Baker, that were siblings from the 3rd grade that also tested positive. We, in consultation with Conrad, they did shut down the entire 3rd grade, which is when we sent them all home on Wednesday. On Friday, on Wednesday afternoon, they actually consulted with the Department of Public Health. They advised us that they were going to require full testing in the entire building. We pushed back on that. We asked them to wait 24 hours. We had a conference call with the Department of Public Health on Friday afternoon at noon. At that point, they agreed that the 3rd graders could return on Monday if the tests that we're waiting for from the adults cannot come in yet. We're still waiting for 5 results at that point.
Right.
If they came in during the weekend as negative, the 3rd grade classes could return. We got the final results on the middle of the afternoon on Sunday around noon. At that point, we made the determination that 2 of the 6 3rd grade classrooms would need to stay in quarantine because there's cases in both those classrooms now. And 4 of the 6 could return on Monday, which we did.
And you, I think that it was kind of a misperception that you canceled the cheer competition.
I did not cancel cheer. I received a phone call from Pop Warner on Wednesday and Thursday. I got phone calls from Town Hall. Town Hall was even on the call with Franklin on Friday. They heard what the decision was in the Franklin Health to give us 3rd grade classes quarantine in the school. They made the decision that they were going to follow the quarantine as being advised on the state level.
Right, so again, when everyone says Dr. Miller didn't allow the cheerleaders to go, that's not the case.
That's not the case. I also, every time I received an email from a parent, rather than emailing the parents back the first of the week, I was calling them back and direct conversations with them, some of them multiple times, because I thought a conversation over the phone would be much more beneficial than a back and forth email that we could get questions answered. Anytime I had this conversation, it was very positive. I had conversations with the people that run Pop Warner locally, and they were in consultation. I called them back after the Department of Health call on Friday and to give them an update where we stood. So they were in communication with me the entire time. I made the decision as soon as we had all the information on Sunday. We had wanted to get earlier. I kept the community informed over the course of the week of the enrollment. They have an update to not only the center school parents, but staff and all stakeholders, even students that are not in our schools that are not involved in. And then all parents district-wide receive communication, anything that's sent out, you as a board also receive the same communications.
That's what I'm saying, so that, I mean, I think that that's one of your strengths, you and in communication, so these parents are standing up there and they're so upset, and they're saying they didn't know anything, so is there something that, is there a possibility that their emails are not being approved, or that they, I mean, why are they thinking that they're not? The stress of everything else, and then to think that nobody's communicating with them, and I know that you are, could it be something with them, like going into spam?
Half these people I spoke to on the phone.
Okay.
The whole situation is very
It's so stressful.
It's very stressful that
Yeah.
these girls missed out on a once in a lifetime opportunity. I feel awful that. these
Hopefully
girls
they'll make,
did.
this will give them, they'll make it to another state
And
championship.
once again, this was a decision that was not made locally. This was a decision that was made by the Concord Health District.
Right.
It was seconded on Thursday by the Department of Health. Concord was concerned that we knew the governor's released the screen and stay Thursday at 11:30. Concord was concerned that our decision locally was coming out a day and hours before the parents were hearing about the screen and stay at 11:30 from the governor. So Lisa Morrissey called Department of Health on Thursday morning and said, this is what she did the day before. She's the one that made the call to send the third grade students home. Their response to her was, even if screen and stay was in place right now, your case doesn't qualify for that. Department of Health was so concerned that this was an outbreak and a cluster case, they had to fill out data of all cases. They were concerned what we were seeing here was going to have an outreach to other towns. So it was a and Lisa Morrissey spoke about this when she addressed you last month. When this Department of Health has a concern that is of this nature, they have seconds to respond. And when they don't respond quickly, sometimes that can result in an outbreak that results in hundreds and hundreds of cases. So she, based on the data that she had, made the call that the traditional contact tracing that we typically would be doing doesn't apply for this because we didn't understand how it was being transmitted and how quickly it was. I had adults in the classroom that never took their mask off that were getting sick that were fully vaccinated. And I had 8 out of 18 students in the classroom that were sick now. So this was not just small contact, this was a full outbreak in the class. They made a decision that for the public health, it was necessary. At the call on Friday, they said this is something that is standard across the state. When this happens, this type of cluster case and outbreak, they advised that we offer free testing. I agreed to do that for the parent and staff that said, yes, I would like to do that. We did not call students out by name. It was done in a very confidential, discreet way. It was done in the library. Parents had the option of signing up for it if they wanted to, this consent form. Staff also responded. There were 108 people that signed up for testing. This was not required of them. That's over a quarter of the school population that said, I'd like to participate in this. It was done yesterday. The results came in midnight last night. There's no positive. They were all negative.
So do you feel pretty confident that it's been mitigated at this point?
At this point, I feel safe that it's mitigated. The last few students that are out tested out today, and they chose not to test out, return on the 12th. There are a handful, I think there's 4 students in the original case that because they were sick, their return dates are slightly different, as well as the return dates of those adults that were sick.
All right. So the staff who went home sick but do not have COVID, are they back yet?
There are a couple that are still sick for various reasons, but not back yet.
And then just last on this, is there any update, because I know it just came down on whatever Thursday or Friday on the screen and stay?
So what the screen and stay is, and it's very misunderstood.
Really?
Yes.
Like-
People think that screen and
That's
stay
shocking.
means that if I came in contact with somebody with COVID, I immediately can come back to school. That's not what it is. So in a case like right now, where I'm sitting here without my mask, if Joe came down with COVID, it doesn't apply because I don't have a mask on. Screen and stay only applies in the classrooms when students are wearing face masks with fidelity. So if we're contact tracing in the classroom and we're wearing masks the entire day, there's no need for Anthony to quarantine if I'm sick now. But at lunch, if Anthony is sick and I am sitting next to him without a mask on for 15 minutes, I now need to quarantine because I don't qualify for screen and stay.
So how is that helping then?
If I am in athletics,
Seriously, how is it helping?
it's only a family portion of contact. So in athletics, that's quick activities, plays, sleepovers, anything outside of school, screen and stay doesn't apply. It only applies when you're on a bus, transportation, or in the school wearing a mask and you have proof that you wear a mask.
Well, that's gonna be
In
tough.
addition to that, if you're in screen and stay, you can come back to school under certain criteria, but you're not allowed to participate in extracurricular activities. So screen and stay means that you're still in quarantine for sports and plays and clubs and stuff like that. In addition to that, screen and stay requires that parents for 14 days check for symptoms for their children and adults check for symptoms before they come to school. It also applies, and it states specifically in the instructions, that if I am coming into physical education, I need to have an alternative education setting during physical education. I'm not allowed to perform a mini tournament. I can't sing choir, and I can't do any sort of public speaking because I'm participating in activities that could be aerosol generating. So screen and stay has specific, strict guidelines on what it applies to. There's more stuff it does not apply to. And there are strict restrictions on what students can participate in for the 14 days while they're in screen and stay.
After all this, trace all the stuff that you did. Okay. In the classroom. So where did it start from? You know, teachers got it, they're not supposed to get it, kids aren't supposed to get it. Then all of a sudden, you have put that up, 19, 25, 30 people infected with COVID from one child. So was it all the tracking, all the stuff you did? You know, who was the main cause? Who was the guy?
A student was initially sick, a student got other students sick and got other adults sick.
So what's the background on that? Like, how do we stop that? This kid came to the school, he must have been sick, and the parents didn't know that. How do we not know that he's sick?
There are some students and adults that are asymptomatic that don't know that they're sick and they're passing the virus on that way. There are some parents that decide to send their children to school sick. We hear that all the time. There's some staff members that choose to come to school sick as well. We need people here who feel not feeling well to stay home.
So when is your next informational session with Dr. Brown? Is now with this screening say, I'm sure it's going to be more confusing.
And the screen and stay really is not something that Dr. Brown's will be able to help what's going to be to our guidelines, but I'm planning to meet with the administration on Monday. Review the guidelines and discuss with them what needs to be put into place. I wanted to have this conversation with you tonight. Send a letter to parents either tomorrow or Thursday, explaining what these new guidelines are and offer an information session Monday evening and plan to put this in place on beginning of Wednesday next week. But it is commonly misunderstood right now because people hear screen and stay really apply to everything and it doesn't. It's not.
Sounds like you need an army to do all this. Did you have a mask on? Don't you have a mask on? Test this, test that. We need 15 people to.
And the nurses across the state are upset by this. They don't think this is going to work in a case like our experience in the third grade. It wouldn't have made a difference anyway, but it actually would have increased contact. So it is very confusing. Parents are getting very confused. Staff are getting very confused. However, as I'm talking to superintendents out there, most school districts at some point in the next month are going to be implementing it. And if we don't implement this, or the one district that says we're not going to do it, then we're going to have a lot of pressure to implement this. So I think we need to do it. Our community, we've heard that they want to keep students in school, I want to keep students in school. We're going to try this, we're going to implement it. If this falls in our face and the state says, this is not working, then we take a step back statewide. But this is something that we have been recommended to do. So we are going to move forward in that way, beginning next Wednesday. In terms of my goals, so now this is aligned to your board of ed goal came up with. I call them superintendent district goals. Some of the metrics are almost identical to what your metrics were, and I added additional stuff.
Because we are so good, or you looked at ours first?
Because they should be aligned. Because my work is your work. And
So
one
again, we're not doing anything with this now, we're just passing it
I'm just
out.
passing on it and review it, and if we get the next meeting, we have.
Can you send it to us electronically?
I will send it to you. Sorry,
Yeah.
right. You know, I sent enough copies around there.
Well, just one question back to screen say, but in theory, the general school population. Right? Their lunches are about 20 minutes. Right, so we in theory, from a school setting, general school setting, we should not see anybody not get this program.
If you're in.
I mean, 15, 20, let's be honest, right? No one's gonna really manage all that, right? So again, back to the science, where we just talk about teachers with vaccines and masks getting it. I mean, so what I'm trying to get at is general school population mask in class, 15 to 20 minutes for lunch. Big guidelines is 15 minutes in the school setting. We should not have any problems, right?
It's 15 to 20, it's 15 minutes over 24 hours. So students have lunch 2 days in a row with a child that is sick, that counts.
That's 24 hours.
The problem is, and the state said this in the Department of Health Department, you know what the response to this was? Students should be sitting there eating lunch with their face mask on.
Yeah.
And when they take a bite, take their face mask off, take a bite, put the mask back on.
Some down here.
That was the response.
Yeah.
as far as I felt that.
I'd love to have a conversation with us and parents about that.
Yeah.
Not directed to you guys, but just.
I
Everyone needs to be safe, God, we've got a little gray area. You were exposed for 16 minutes. I mean, quarantine the grade. No, we're not doing that.
Which I think is who came up with the 15-minute arbitrary number. Like,
It's not
like if they know that lunch is 20 minutes, but they made it 20 minutes. I mean, all seriousness.
It is frustrating.
And they put out PSA like animations all the time. Maybe they should do the mask thing in an animated thing. They have, you know, the crosswalk or waiters so you can stop. And they put out a video to help us. It's ridiculous.
So I feel your frustration.
Nah, it's not against you guys.
That's not directed at you, right?
I live this every day and very frustrated. I feel bad for the kids that have.
These parents, and they have to work, and they don't know if their kids in or out of school, I mean, I don't know how they're doing it. They're not, so you can see the stress in that.
Yes, yeah, and I hear to the voice that talk about getting their emails, we're trying best we can keep informed. And some of these decisions, like the quarantine kit last week, was not made on our, not made by us, it was done by us, of course. Very quickly, a few other updates. Board docs, we are almost ready to implement. I do need to figure out a date with the board to do training. It'd be great to have that training before the next board meeting that I've got to do. In the system, we can possibly do the training just before the meeting starts. Instead, you and I should have a conversation about what that date that. Just have that.
And is it possible to do it via Zoom?
It would be, we could do it via Zoom.
Let's do it.
remote session. But,
Let's just put it all night.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. that's
So
fine.
we're basically ready to implement that. The agendas from this point forward will be through board docs like you had tonight. The policy committee on Thursday will be through board docs as well, the agenda. The policies have been provided to board docs. It took me about another 4 to 5 weeks before the policies are online. In the meantime, the link on the website is to a Google folder that contains all of the policies that have been approved by the board in June. So the old policy link is down. The new policies are online and available to anybody that would be ready to look at the website.
I thought when I clicked on the policy, like it took me to the Cape policies.
It did.
It's
Today?
it's changed as a second.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
A couple more quick things.
Rob,
Very
thanks,
good.
thanks.
Very quick. On my first parent advisory committee, last week, very good information, parents are very good communication, looking for some more consistency across the district, that I had my first meeting with that. Setting up my first teacher advisory
Okay,
committee.
then would you go back to, I know I did say, I was really coming in tomorrow. So when you have that parent advisory, is that something that you can, I mean, just bullet points, and this is what the concerns are, just so that we know what they're.
Yeah, I'll include by Friday after this week. I was planning to talk more in depth about it tonight, but I put it right.
Yeah, let's put it in.
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to go faster now. Meeting with the high school student government students Thursday morning to talk about creating a student advisory committee. And I'll be doing the same thing at the middle school shortly to get students involved. I've also called teachers, and I have a list of about 15 teachers that are interested in being on the teacher advisory committee. So just a way of trying to create more opportunities for two-way conversations. I'm also going to be setting up either 2 or 3 times a month in their school office hours. So in the spots that teachers want to come in and talk to me, I'm in classes every day, but if they want to come and talk to me, they can do it before school, during lunch, or afternoon. I figure out what the school's going to work the best time. I'm just trying to create new opportunities and avenues for teachers to have direct conversations with me, because the more I can hear from teachers, students, and parents, the better we're going to make decisions that we're not. So I'm working on that. I have a this is the budget calendar that was discussed at the finance committee. And I'm not going to go into detail on the transcendent wealth and environmental feedback. I'll give that information on further another time. And just a reminder, here in the room right here to the left is this month's artwork from the high school. And in the case behind in the hallway is additional artwork from students that was put in display today and will be in display for next month. So please take a look at that. And one final thing, you should receive an email from Jim, our IT engineer, with a lot of.
Is that Jim?
No, this is Alex. Jim is our IT coordinator.
I know, but I've only met him once and I can't see behind those masks.
And we want to get all the board members on our email system for FOI information. So once you're on your email, send me an email to confirm that you're on the new system to confirm that. And I do not realize that Pam Alford is still here. Pam, probably going to thank Pam for facilitating the artwork that we have here today.
Don't have to clap for me, you have to clap for those kids.
No, they're great. They're great.
You guys, you're talking about COVID, and there's one up there with COVID, and I think everybody before they leave here should really read what the student wrote to me. I didn't write the students' names on there, I put the initials, because students had to write the deeper meaning behind their drawings. And I didn't really want to put it out there, but I think parents are stressed, teachers are stressed, kids are stressed.
Yeah.
I have
Boards
kids
are
coming to me
stressed.
and they go, I just don't know how to learn anymore. I don't know how to be in school. And with that COVID one up there, I know it had me in tears when I was reading it, because with all my troubles in the world, or challenges that we have every day, this is a high school kid that just lost everything. During COVID. So I think we all have to put our priorities in perspective. Because we our hands are tied. Yeah. We have to follow rules, unfortunately.
So that's not, thank you. So that's my quick update for this evening.
Great, thank you. So I have 72 pages in my chair report, but I'm going to narrow it down to, welcome, Vinny. That was you back there. I don't know if you just take your mask up for a
Back
second.
and forth.
Hi.
You can't back down now.
And how do you pronounce your last name?
Catadell.
Catadell. So this is our, soon to be our newly elected board member who will be sworn in next week, and he will be joining us at the table. And we hope this doesn't scare you too much, because it's never this late. So please don't scream down 67, but
It's a late night, that's all right. Yeah.
it's
Highly
just
unusual.
very,
Welcome.
highly unusual to have such a long meeting, but if you were here for the audience of citizens, you know, I mean, people need to see you. We have no idea how long that's going to take. So
I can imagine that that's something that could definitely repeat itself. I would expect to hear those things.
okay, good. So, so once again, welcome. We look forward to working with you and answer any questions that you have along the way. So that's that. So now I would also, you know, in the next one, are there any committee reports that, so instead of going through each one, are there any committee reports, I can't talk about this, that need to be addressed tonight, or any important things in those committees that need board understanding tonight?
No.
Policy's gonna be on Thursday. Policy's meeting Thursday. Facilities. curriculum, curriculums meeting, and then our, I'm sorry, what was it? I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
I don't know my middle name right now. And then our, once we, oh, and also congratulations to other people who are now 4 more years on the board, Steve, Nicole, Vic, and Shelley, so.
Congratulations.
Just that way, I started the middle school baseball field, clearing it up and stuff.
Excellent. Excellent. So, we're gonna have some shift in our policies, which will take place after we have our organizational meeting on the 23rd, and then our policy, our subcommittees are gonna be shifting, so, same people, but different spots, and, it's good to shake it up. So liaison reports, anybody have anything?
PTO meetings Thursday.
Everything's Thursday, Deb. You're gonna be busy.
Booster Club is Thursday, or Booster Club is tomorrow night, and PTO is Thursday night.
So the last thing on here is our memorandum of understanding, and this is not timely, so I would like to make a motion to table this till our next meeting, because it's not anything that needs, like I said, it's not timely. I can, so we can talk about it at the next meeting unless anybody wants to say. So, go ahead.
I make a motion to table for the next Board of Education meeting, agenda item number 12, memorandum of understanding.
Any further discussion?
I agree that it be tabled. However, I do want us to make sure that we're not signing
Yes.
any MOAs or MOUs.
That's an
This is
agreement.
our
That's
discussion.
we have a gentleman's agreement on
That's
that.
Okay.
not done deal.
Yeah,
Then I'm fine.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn at 9:49.
Second.
All those in favor? Alex, thank you so much. I think you're
Thanks, Alex.
good support in the back here, so thank you. I just hit the wall.